FNL.com. Kyle Devitte, Inside Lacrosse Magazine, joining us live in studio. Once again, Kyle, good morning.
What's up?
How are you, my friend?
Excellent.
The NCAA is now in the rearview mirror. You were down there, right?
Yeah,
over
absolutely.
the weekend, and well, a few different lacrosse brands released some equipment, right? While you were down there, including Maverick.
Yeah, it's funny. Usually, NCAAs have been a huge platform for companies to launch new things and have a presence, like a physical presence.
Yeah.
There wasn't a ton of that this year, and the fan zone was actually across the street from the stadium. So I went over there. I did a bunch of stuff. I actually did some events. Like personally, I did a thing for Epic where they film you stringing and they stylize it and make it cool. So I got to do that. That
so
was
you were
fun.
on camera.
I was on camera.
Nervous at all?
No.
No.
I got a face for camera.
There you go.
So it's fine. That's for you, Russ. Yeah, it's that was a good time. But it's funny. It really is. I don't know. You guys remember when the championships were at Gillette? There was huge presence from all these retailers, all of these companies, and much more muted, I would say, this year.
And why is that?
I think it has something to do with the cost of doing business, for lack of a better term. There was a lot of space. It was a lot of fun being had by a lot of smaller companies. Had a lot of presence there. One of my friends helps run the Face Off Academy with all the pro guys like Greg Gorenly and that they had a pretty cool tent. They were taking selfies. I was trying to get a picture of them for like 20 minutes. I couldn't get through like a crowd of kids. So that's fun. East Coast Eyes was there. Gate was there with some new stuff, which was surprising because I haven't seen anything from them in a while. But the main thing that dropped, and I actually helped kind of craft this release, was the Maverick Centric, which is a head for Maverick that is more kind of a MIDI focused head. They have a whole line of, the tank is the defensive head, the optic is the attack head, and the metric was the MIDI head before this head. It's actually kind of a mix between the metric and the optic. It has a nice mid-rail. They call it the level 4 mid-rail, which basically just means, the pocket's in the middle, the shape of the stick. It's easier to string a middle pocket for middies. You don't have to be a midi to play with a middle pocket, but, it's pretty common. It's a pretty cool head. It's not coming out till July 4th, but I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on one in the next couple weeks, hopefully.
Well, again, you can put your order in ahead of time at Sports Stop NH by calling 603-606-1921. All this sound good, Russ?
It does. I mean, I've actually heard quite a bit of buzz about the head, so I'm interested to see what it looks like. I've never really gotten caught up in gear. I kind of just listen to the guys and say, hey, just string me up something and I'll figure out how to use it. But I'm getting older. I could use any advantage I can get at this point. So if we can get that stick, that'd be nice.
Russ has the ugliest stick I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Stick skills. He's talking stick skills.
No. The actual physical stick looks like it was strung by a 5-year-old.
It's
fine. It's not your fault.
No.
It's okay.
You any opinion on any of this, Coach Hetler?
I think Maverick's come a long way. I'm playing / warming up goalies with an optic right now, and I've really liked it. I had one of my good friends, Ryan Hoffmeister, who works for Cascade Maverick. He strung me up a traditional one, and it's great. I think it's a really good stick. A couple of my kids are using it. So I'll be interested to see when the new Maverick stick releases too. See how it strings up.
Any of the other? I mean, you mentioned 5 or 6 of the smaller brands, I suppose, that were down there at the NCAA Final Four and tried to make a presence. Did you see any of their products that caught your eye? Anything that stood out?
Gates trying to do this black, white, all white thing. They didn't have any of the white gear, but I've seen it since. They're doing an ice line, kind of named after their most successful thing they've launched since the Torque, which is their ice shaft. It's really light. I think anyone that is looking for the lightest thing possible has used an ice shaft at some point. It used to be called the DB803, which was the lightest shaft.
And I would assume, again, as an outsider, that lighter equals better, right?
Not always.
Not always.
Definitely not durable.
Okay.
It's just a thing. Light became an obsession for, I want to say, like 4 years, between like 2008 and 2012, everyone was like, oh, I have to have the lightest head. They're going to make the lightest head. This is going to be the best thing ever. This is going to be the best thing ever. And it's like, well, there's a price you pay for that. And if you're picking gear and you're a heavy checking or riding attackman and you're like, well, I want a really light shaft, like, yeah, maybe we go like some kind of blend of the alloy, not like the lightest thing possible. It's not the greatest thing. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen like attackmen break shafts on rides because they're throwing a ill-advised wrap check and they hit someone's shoulder that's like, made of rock,
right.
and it's just going to shatter. It just happens,
I'm sure you've broken a few sticks in your day.
A lot of them have been broken over my rock-hard shoulders, I'll tell you that. But, no, I mean, we have, and the obsession for lightness has been going on since I was a kid. I mean, we used to use wooden shafts and everything else, and so you'd see, mesh lightened up some of the heads. I mean, so this obsession's been going on for a while. The Gate Ice, though, is very good. It's actually light but durable as well. So it's a solid box shaft is where a lot of their technology comes from at Gate. So I like Gate stuff. I root for those guys up there. So.
What about in the net, Coach Hetler? Does any of that factor in at all?
I was just thinking about that back to like my youth and high school days and how heavy the stick was and how hard it was to throw. I mean, I didn't hit the weight room that hard when I was a kid, but like it was hard to throw a full field, half field outlet pass. And now you've got these youth kids that can bomb passes 70 yards on the run, with a goalie stick because it's so much lighter. You can get so much more torque on it, and it's a big advantage for kids now.
What about with your days at the pro level with the cannons? I mean, you guys must have had your pick of the litter, so to speak, equipment-wise, right?
Yeah, and I did notice, like, I always wanted a balanced stick. I didn't want the head or the shaft to be heavier. I wanted it to be well-balanced so that, with hand speed, you could get the head of the stick where you wanted it. I used a diamond shaft for a long time, and to me it was the right balance with the head of weight to lightness ratio, I guess you would say. And I still use it today. But I looked in my closet and some of the heavy shafts that I still got down there from back in my high school days. It's come along.
You keep all your sticks?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You throw them,
along with the trophies, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
With the gear this guy has and the trophies, he's got like an 8,700 square foot house.
Right.
Rent out a facility.
Right. He's got a couple man caves, probably.
That's it.
Again, Kyle Devitte is our guest here live in studio from Inside Lacrosse Magazine, presented by the Sports Stop of New Hampshire. What are you working on for the magazine?
We just wrapped our championship issue. I know last time, I think one of the last two times I was here, I teased the poaching issue. It is out now. Kind of a controversial topic. Not a lot of people in lacrosse are addressing it, but we got some D1 coaches on record. It's an amazing piece.
And what's that about?
It's so when players commit, kind of like any other sport, it's not it's not permanent. You're not signing in blood. So there are coaches that will still talk to kids that are committed. I mean, that's just part of the game. And
that's where the term poaching comes in.
Poaching comes in is like, oh, well, this kid's, sign a letter of intent for us. Well, kids can change their mind. And that's kind of, whether or not that's a moral gray area, if that's right or not. And I think the piece does a great job of examining that. My article in that piece is the top 15 MLL players of all time, which I'm really excited about. Fought really hard for the format to be a certain way, through a couple fits.
Drew a line in the sand.
It looks great. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Our director, Matt Kane, did a great job with it. And for the next issue, the championship issue, is really just kind of a recap of the weekend, of championships, D1, D2, D3. I wrote the D3 piece in the magazine. And while I was down there, I wrote all the tactical breakdown of every game that was played except for the D3 games because I was going to write the magazine piece.
So it sounds like you were a busy man for sure, huh? Is this the busiest time of the year for you?
It was.
It was, yeah.
I tell you what, I did nothing yesterday, and it was the greatest thing ever.
Right.
I loved it. I love doing nothing for a day. I haven't done that since like
the
November.
Sounds of silence.
It's great.
There you go.
Kyle, without giving away too much from your article there, who did you? I'm curious to hear who did you find as the top poachers, if you will, in there? Who goes after who still goes after the kids?
I think we have Corrigan from Notre Dame on record as saying he doesn't mind doing it. I think there's a lot of coaches. Some coaches didn't go on record. Some coaches are against it. I think the coaches we have on there are, we have Mike Murphy from Colgate on there on record. We have a lot of.
What did Murphy say?
I don't recall his position. I think that all I know is Corrigan was definitely in there for we do it. whatever kind of stance.
I received some calls this course of this week. Coaches are flat out saying, "Look, I'm looking for kids. I mean, I just lost 3 kids to being poached, so who do you have for me?" And because it used to be, if you were a 16 for high-level D1 at this point, 16 meaning a current junior, there wasn't any spots for you. But there's a lot of movement now where coaches are stealing poaching from other kids, and they're flat out saying, "Look, who do you have?" And they're also personally, checking in on Brian every now and then because it's free game out there. It's a different.
Is there any recourse for a coach who had a kid stolen, essentially?
There really isn't until that national letter of intent is signed in the fall of your senior year.
Yeah.
Because it's becoming more like football and basketball. You see, when you follow these ESPN top 100 football players and basketball players, so many times they committed, they decommit, because they're constantly getting recruited. And it's becoming that way in lacrosse. So you're not done getting recruited until you sign that national letter of intent.
So more and more we're seeing the verbal commitment, so to speak, means almost nothing at this point until, like you said, they're a senior and they sign that official letter of intent.
Yeah, I mean, and we could talk to Sean Penn about that in a little bit because he verbally committed to Denver. But I don't want to say it means nothing because most schools honor that. There are some issues when there's a coaching change. What happens then? Does that new coach come in? We have a player, Nick Prunier, who's committed to Holy Cross. He's a junior now. He committed before his sophomore season, and the new coaching staff came in, and they weren't sure which way they were going to go. They wound up honoring all their commits, And Penn State recently, Jeff Tambroni took over, and he said, "I'm cleaning the slate. I'm going to bring in my own guys." So that is one of the risks that you run when you do commit early. But schools don't want to be that guy that starts dropping kids because if they start, if kids don't perform, then all of a sudden people are going to be slow to commit to a school that you don't have.
And how have you handled it in your case? Again, your son Brian is 15 on his way to North Carolina as only a freshman. How and you just said you've had other coaches call and inquire. How have you handled that as the father of the player?
As the father of the player, it's you kind of understand why there's rules where they can't contact the kid because it does become overwhelming for a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
But as the father of the player, I let him, I listened to him, and he's fully set on going to North Carolina. And as far as North Carolina's set on Brian, certainly things could change. That could be a coaching change. We hopefully not because we love Coach Bresci. But we just we took our time making the decision. When I say take your time, it didn't take 2 years. It's over 2 months. But I don't even let him know about those phone calls. Because I just don't want to put any more confusion into it.
The other thing people I think aren't aware of is that the turnover isn't necessarily with the head coach. So a lot of turnover will come at the Division I level with the assistants, and you'll see a ton of movement. Like right about now, there's a huge, just like, and I have friends that our head coach is a D3. They're just like, hey, where are you looking? Who's talked to you? And that's because you can go D1 at any time. Like you can be a D1 assistant, get called up, or you have the right connections, you work the right camps, you talk to the right people, you win the right amount of games, you show the aptitude. You can get moved. There's just so much movement. And the thing that I think maybe a lot of people don't realize is those assistants are the ones that are on the road recruiting the kids. They're doing a lot of work, a lot of work. And when I talk to pro guys that are coaches, it's just like, how do you keep up with like working out and like actually being able to play and recruit? And they're like, it's awful, like it's really hard for them to do. And
it's when that first domino falls. Once that first one falls, then you're going to start seeing the ripple effect.
Exactly.
Well, we'll look for that issue. It sounds like some fascinating stuff and a big issue coming up with Inside Lacrosse Magazine. Kyle Devitte, pleasure was mine as usual. Thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, thanks.
Again, that's Kyle Devitte.